They're probably not lazy. They just need the proper assistance. And you know what? There are people that can take care of themselves that are sucking up the funds that those people that cannot take care of themselves really need. Now, see, the crazy homeless person, that's the kind of person that Christ said that we're supposed to take care of. That's the type of person that deserves to get my tax dollars for assistance. Not the person who weighs 300 pounds, eats one of those big barrels of cheese balls every week and sits on their duff and does nothing when they're fully capable of getting up and working. And folks, California is a place you ought to be. Well, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to highly suggest you do, because if you're a conservative, one way you're going to say, oh, the coast is beautiful. Another way you're going to say, man, it's filthy, dirty, disgusting, and it pisses me off because that is right. When people say this should not happen in our country, that is shameful. And I can tell you the reason why those homeless people are not getting the assistance and help that they really need is because you've got some 47 million other people who are getting government assistance who do not really need it.
You said in the Rose Garden, the day after the attack, it was an act of terror. It was not a spontaneous demonstration. Is that what you're saying?
Please proceed, Governor.
It is in response to a video, a film. This is in response to a video.
Internet video that we had nothing to do with.
That was spontaneous? Was it a planned attack? Was there a terrorist element to it?
This is a response to a hateful and offensive video.
The video and its influence on the protests that occurred in Cairo and Benghazi in response to this video. It was the video that caused the unrest in Cairo, that precipitated some of the arrests in Benghazi, and it was sparked by the reaction to this video. The video was a precipitating cause to the unrest, specifically in Libya. Might take advantage of a situation that was brought about initially as a response to the video in question.
Natural protests that arose because of the outrage over the video.
You are totally correct that they spent 2 weeks telling us this was about a tape and that there was this riot outside the Benghazi consulate, which there wasn't.
Natural protests that arose because of the outrage over the video.
I was in chronic pain, and my family struggling to make ends meet, food and gas prices going up, even keeping my job was iffy. Then I learned about a new miracle drug made in Washington, D.C., Spenditol. Spenditol is Washington's answer to all the painful problems Americans face. How to borrow $800 billion for a stimulus that didn't create jobs or fix the economy? Spenditol.
Spenditol is not for everyone. Side effects may include a mountain of government debt piled on our kids, a sudden loss of freedoms, higher prices for everything, leaving our kids a lesser America than we had. Ask your doctor or congressman if your conscience is strong enough for Spenditol.
And it's so popular in Washington, we have to import trillions more of it from China. Spenditol makes you feel better now and pushes off the really bad stuff till later, for them to deal with.
Call the White House and Congress. Tell them, stop spending it all.
Feeling lonely this holiday season? Looking for little human interaction? Do you want to feel contact in certain special places?
Then why not go through security at an airport?
The TSA.
TSA agents are ready and standing by to give you a little something extra to feel thankful about this holiday season.
The TSA.
What are you waiting for? I want to check under your testicles.
Spending time with a TSA agent couldn't be easier. Simply book a flight departing from any American airport. When selected for a full body scanner,
say no. You'll be pulled aside by a TSA agent, and that's when the fun begins. And you never know who your agent will be.
It could be me. Or me. Or even me.
But it's probably gonna be us. Take off your damn shoe.
The TSA. It's our business to touch yours.
Welcome to the Bureau of Womanhood Conformity. Independent thoughts are considered subversive because all must agree with our leader.
When it comes to women, preventive care should include coverage of contraceptive services such as birth control.
You see, if you don't believe government should pay for your birth control, you're not a real woman. Womanhood denied. If you refuse to accept that pregnancy is a punishment, you're denied as well.
I don't want them punished with a baby.
If you don't believe that abortions should be allowed for any reason, if you don't believe in aborting a child for being the wrong gender, and if you don't believe that stay-at-home mothers aren't real workers, you are not a real conformed woman.
His wife has actually never worked a day in her life. His wife has actually never worked a day in her life.
Finally, for your safety, if you oppose mandatory government health care, you will die.
They will be voting to say that women can die on the floor.
These standards and regulations were formed after our glorious victory in the war on women. Thank you for your cooperation and your conformity.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
And we are back here on The Rod Eccles Show. You are listening to your lovable host, El Rod, coming to you live. Yes, indeedy, here on the CB Media Network, conservative broadcast media network powered by Zinc Media. Cutting the U.S. nuclear arsenal can help cut the deficit. This is a piece in the Washington Post by Walter Pincus. Now, before I get into this story, this piece by Walter Pincus, Pincus, first of all, understand he's probably a little bit senile. He's older. I don't know how old he is, but he's older. If that's him in his, if that's an actual depiction of his photograph of his likeness picture on his piece, then yeah, he's kind of old. You know, definitely older. I would venture to say over 70, possibly over 80. That wouldn't be out of the realm of based on this picture of him. He might be younger. I don't know. Maybe it's just an old, a terrible picture. But if you're looking at the picture, I would say that he's between 75 and 85 years old. Now, I'm not going to go look up Walter Pincus. You can do that if you want to, but I know he's a liberal socialist nut job, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, he could be 15 for all I care. It doesn't matter. But the reason his age might be of interest is because he would be old enough to have been alive during World War II and throughout the Cold War. So he would know exactly what the hell was going on because he would have, lived it. But this is what Walter Pincus says. One way President Obama could help reduce the deficit is to trim funds planned for the next 10 years for building, maintaining, and operating the U.S. nuclear weapons program. Now, folks, we've already reduced our nuclear stockpile below that of which the Soviet Union has. We're now at a deficit compared to Russia. I'm sorry, I said Soviet Union. Same thing. Putin is the president. Yeah. Why do you think Putin was so happy that Obama won? And he was doing a happy dance over there in the Kremlin. Now, that could save, over 10 years, up to $100 billion. Would it solve our deficit problem? No, but it would help such savings add up. You know, Mr. Pincus, I can think of other places where savings... Folks, understand this. We're talking about $100 billion here. That would nearly wipe out our nuclear arsenal if we did what Pincus is suggesting. It would nearly wipe it out. We would literally be at the mercy of nations that are less friendly to us that have nuclear weapons. And I'm not even talking about the 90 to 100 that North Korea has. I'm not even talking about Iran. I'm talking about the 900 and growing that China has. I'm talking about the 5,000 that we know of that Russia has. So, it's just an idiotic idea. But be that as it may, you're talking only $100 billion in savings. When if we actually got our government to do what was constitutionally limited to do, we'd save more than $100 billion a year. We'd wipe out our debt. Did you know, our country has always been in debt. Our national government has always been in debt. Now, some people are saying, well, this is just a continuation of that. No. You see, we had some major reasons for being in debt. It wasn't for social programs, at least not up until FDR. It wasn't for social programs. The reason why we started out in debt as a nation is because, the Revolutionary War of the Revolution, the War of Independence. And the federal government assumed the debt that the states had, especially when it came to, in reference to the war of independence. The government, the federal government took that on, and we owed bond money to American citizens, as well as a good portion of our debt belonged to, at the time, France. Now, the difference is that we had people like Hamilton and Jefferson that understood how bad it was to be in debt as a nation, and they worked diligently. They were deficit hawks, the original deficit hawks. Hamilton and then Jefferson, they were the original deficit hawks. They nearly paid off the debt, and then we had the War of 1812. Well, we had to pay for the war, so we issued more bonds. Again, most of that money came from the citizenry. And then again, they worked their deficit hawks. They almost paid it off, and then we had the Civil War. Well, we had to pay for the Civil War. And then after the Civil War, then again the deficit went down. They tried to work it down, and then you had Woodrow Wilson comes along, and we get World War I. After World War I, we tried to pay it down one last time. And then came the New Deal from FDR. There was no concern of the deficit. Then World War II. And after World War II, there was no real concerted long-term effort to get rid of the deficit. And you can look at charts and graphs, and it will show you the difference. Pre-World War II, pre-Great Depression, pre-FDR, and post-FDR. Folks, understand this. Liberal, socialist, both. Woodrow Wilson was a turning point in this country. He was able to convince the states to ratify an income tax. Why? Because he promised the states it would never go above 3%. We've had an income tax, marginal income tax rate as high as 90% in this country. That's a little bit far off the mark of 3%, is it not?